everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, my name is Amanda. Today I have 3 delicious recipes that are sure to become family favorites. Pizza ramen soup, semi-homemade pizza, and oven-baked chili dogs. These recipes are sure to please, so let's get to it. First up, we have pizza ramen soup. And I've got all the ingredients laid out here for this, and I'll go over them as I put them into the pot and get them prepared. First, we're going to start with the pepperoni. This is about 2 ounces of pepperoni, and I'm just going to dice it up and get it ready to go into the pot. Now, you can use whatever kind of pepperoni here you like. I buy the natural kind that has a little less preservatives and things like that in it. You could use turkey pepperoni, just whichever one you like and you typically use. This is about half of one of those like smaller kind of bags. I think they're about 6 ounces or something like that. So I'm just putting that in the pot. And we're going to actually saute that. You don't need any oil to do that because as this heats, it's going to actually release natural oils that are in the pepperoni. And so as you can see, that's rendered some of that fat out of that pepperoni. You're crisping up the pepperoni as well. Once this gets, where you've got a lot of that oil rendered out and the pepperoni is, crisp in spots, go ahead and remove that from the pot with a slotted spoon. And you're just going to set it to the side. And we're going to get our veggies started sauteing in this oil here in just a moment. So the veggies we're using is a Cajun mirepoix blend. You could also use fresh celery, green pepper, onions. You could actually change up the vegetables too, so don't worry about that too much. Just use what you like, kind of what you would use on a pizza. Celery typically isn't on pizza, but my youngest is very picky and he loves this stuff, so I pack in a little extra veggies as I can. So we don't really even notice the celery in it, but you could definitely do onions and green peppers fresh and not put that in there if you'd like to leave the celery out. So I've got that mirepoix mix dumped into that oil, and I'm just going to let that saute until it gets softened. And I'm adding some minced garlic here. You can add as much or as little as you like. I just kind of eyeball it. A lot of times with my seasonings and garlic and things like that, I do eyeball it. I don't really measure all the time. It just depends on what I'm making. But I feel like with garlic, you can always use extra garlic. So I enjoy putting a little extra in there. So definitely do it to your taste. So in here, I have some oregano and Italian seasoning that's going in there. And I'm just going to kind of saute this up for just a minute to kind of bring out the flavors in those seasonings. And then we're going to add a 15-ounce jar of pizza sauce, just whatever sauce you like to use. And we're going to get that poured into the pot. Then we're going to also add a quart of chicken broth. And so that pizza sauce, of course, is kind of what gives you that flavor of taste, and those seasonings too. They give you that flavor of that pizza taste to it. So I'm fixing to get the broth in there. And I had a little trouble with that container. Like when I opened it, it totally didn't cut the seal fully, so it took me forever. So I've trimmed that down for you so you don't have to see all that. But we get the chicken broth in here, bring it to a boil. Once it comes to a boil, you're going to cover that and let it simmer on medium-low for 10 minutes. And I just want to make sure I got every little bit of that pizza sauce in there. You're also going to add some grated Parmesan cheese in there. I just used the Kraft in the green container there, and get that in there, and it's going to kind of give it a little bit of that, Parmesan goodness in there. You could also, I'm sure, use fresh if you wanted to. I think this just kind of dissolves a little better in the soup than like the fresh, kind of shredded or something like that, but I'm sure it would still work fine. So now we've already brought this to a boil. We've simmered it for 10 minutes. We're going to now add our pepperoni in and get that in the pot. And then we're going to add our noodles. Now the noodles I use are udon noodles. The original recipe actually calls for like the ramen that you buy in the little packs, and you can use that if you like to. These I've just used for other things and I really like them, so I put these in here instead. So whatever, and I'm sure even regular pasta would work, so it's whatever you'd like to put in here. But to make it more of the ramen, I think that like the udon or the ramen are fun to go in there. So and I'm just getting all those in there. That's going to cook for another 5 to 7 minutes. After it gets done cooking at that point, you can taste it, see if it needs anything else. You know, I don't add any additional salt, but you may want salt. You may want some pepper, or, you know, maybe some more Italian seasoning. So just, you know, check that when it gets done and see if it's to your liking, and then, you know, let it simmer for another minute or two just to, you know, meld those flavors together if you do add anything. And once this is finished, you're just going to top it with mozzarella cheese on individual servings. This soup is just so delicious. I really can't tell you enough. It is so good, and my son, who's super picky, absolutely loves it. So I'm trying to make it for him as much as I can because it gets a little veggies in them too. So we really enjoy it, and I hope y'all will too. So next up, we have oven baked chili dogs. These are super simple. All I'm going to do is chop up some onion in here. Now, granted, you know, if you don't like onion, you can leave that out. But I've diced mine up pretty fine so that I can have it on the hot dogs. And this was the first time I ever made this recipe. It was a new recipe to me. I really enjoyed it, and my kids loved it too. Like, they were really impressed with it. You think that chili dogs are something pretty simple, and this is simple, but it's just changing it up a little bit, and they're baking them, so it's really, I don't know, just add something to it. So I'm just adding some mayonnaise to the buns, which I know sounds strange, but that's what the recipe called for, so that's what I did, and it worked well. You didn't notice any kind of mayonnaise taste or anything like that to it. So if you're not a big fan of mayonnaise, don't worry too much about that. It's not going to impart some strong flavors or anything to it. So I'm just getting all of these spread with a little bit of the mayonnaise, and this is the last one here I was actually fixing forward this night. After I get the mayonnaise spread on each one, I'm going to add mustard to just a couple of them because I had some requests for no mustard. So I'm going to put that on two of them, and then it also called for dill relish, so I've got that going on two of them as well because I wanted relish on mine, and some people didn't want relish and mustard on there, so it was kind of really easy to customize it. The big thing was just remember which one you put where in the pan. That way that everybody got the right one. So I'm just spreading this dill relish on there. I was actually almost at the very last. I might have put a little more, except for I thought I'm just going to go ahead and finish this jar, and you know, I think that would be enough. I actually don't always eat dill relish on my hot dogs, so I thought, well, this will be, you know, kind of nice to try a little bit on it. We can always add more later. So I'm just placing these in a square baking dish. Depending on how many you make, you might need a 9 by 13. I only did 4, so I needed a smaller dish. So whatever dish works for you, based on how many hot dogs you're making. So I've got the hot dogs going in here, and then I'm going to top them with some chili. Now you can use whatever kind of chili you have on hand. I actually had some frozen where I had made homemade, and that tasted so good on this, so I was really glad I had that in the freezer. You can use canned though, you can use homemade, you can use like the coney sauce, you know, whatever you like on hot dogs. We really enjoyed this on here. I haven't gotten a recipe up for my chili yet on my blog, so that is something I need to do, and maybe film that as well, because I always enjoy making chili. So once you get these all topped with the chili, we're actually going to start adding the chopped onions and the shredded cheese. I will have to say I was a little worried as I was putting the cheese on there that, you know, because you actually do cover this with foil and then put it in the oven. I started thinking, oh, I know that cheese is going to melt and it's going to stick to the top of that and it's going to pull all the cheese off. So as I wrap this, I actually do try to kind of almost dome it a little bit, that way that it won't touch the cheese exactly. And I was really surprised it did not pull off all the cheese, so I was glad. And if it did, you could always chop a little more cheese and put it back in the oven and it wouldn't be any problem or anything like that. To me, it was just amazing though how different these tasted being baked. I don't know, they were just really good. And you put the hot dogs in there cold, but yet they get all nice and warm, and it's just tastes so good together. So we really enjoyed it, and they actually stayed together pretty well. That's something my son said. You know, he was surprised. So you're just going to put this in the oven at 350 degrees and bake it for 45 minutes. And here we have it finished. like I said, this was so good. I highly recommend you make it. And it was so easy, especially if you already have homemade chili on hand, or if you, like I said, if you want to use canned chili and you have that on hand. And you could vary the toppings. You could add bacon, you could add jalapenos, whatever kind of toppings you like on your hot dogs. And this was absolutely delicious. So I highly recommend this recipe. We will definitely be making it again. We just made some French fries in the air fryer and served that with it. And this was a delicious meal. So we definitely enjoyed it. So what toppings do y'all like on your hot dogs? Let me know in the comments below, because I'm pretty standard, I guess. So I do have to say that we had a Disney hot dog with pork and slaw on it one time years ago, and that was amazing. So that was probably my most different hot dog I've ever had. But we really enjoyed this recipe. So next up, we have easy semi-homemade pizza. So this really is a kind of a non-recipe. It's, you know, the pizza crust mix that you buy at the store and the pizza sauce mix. But we really enjoy this. My son, my youngest, actually always, when he was little, would say this was my husband's world famous pizza. Because if you notice, my husband's actually making this one instead of me. This is kind of his thing to do. He enjoys making it. So we just use 2 packages of the pizza crust mix for each pizza, because we put them out on one of the sheet pans. So we make a very large pizza. That way everybody can have plenty left over for all of us. So, and he is just bringing that dough together with some water. We just follow the package directions, but occasionally we still need to add a little water or that type of thing. So just kind of keep an eye on that. We're just wrapping that with plastic wrap, and we're going to sit that to the side and let it kind of rest for about 45 minutes. He used to skip this step, but one time he let it go for a while and he realized it really did make a difference. So definitely don't skip that, and let it rest for a little while so that it can become a better consistency. It also is much easier to roll out when we do that too. So he's just greasing the pan here and getting it ready to roll out.
I love bread.
Okay, I just had to put that in there because he sounded so funny when he said it. Because if you remember those Oprah commercials from a long time ago that said, you know, she loved bread and she eats bread every day, he was emulating that commercial. So here he's just spreading that dough out onto the pan, getting it all good and even and into as much of the corners as he can to get it a large size pizza. So he does this with both of the doughs and gets that ready. He always greases it with butter. I don't know that you necessarily have to do that, but he's always done that and he feels like that works best. So, and it doesn't stick or anything like that. If you use like parchment paper or something like that, that would probably help as well. And he's just spreading the pizza sauce here, getting some hamburger down, and we did part hamburger on one side and then part just regular cheese. The other pizza was all hamburger. And then we put them in the oven at 400 degrees until they're done. We just keep a close eye on them, so just make sure you do that. And some people like their cheese a little more, you know, done, and some people like it a little underdone. So depending on what you like to do, just kind of keep an eye on it and go by the package directions, because I believe it tells on there as well. And so here's the one with just hamburger and cheese on it. It's ready to go into the oven. And then this is that first one done. It looks so cheesy and gooey. This is really good, and it's definitely better than like a frozen pizza or something like that. We really enjoy making these, and it's fun because he can cook them. Something, you know, the kids just, I don't know, they have good memories of him always fixing that as they were little and stuff like that. So, and he loves to cut it into squares. He always says it tastes better if it's in squares. So here is our pizza cut into squares, ready for us to eat. I don't think we got a shot of the second pizza, so I'm sorry about that. But thank you so much for joining me. And if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe for more delicious recipes coming your way. Thanks so much.